Hey, what's up, everybody? So today, man, got a little bit of a different kind of, this isn't a reaction at all. It is basically a point of view coming from me. And it's both a toast and a rant. It's not a contradiction. I want to toast this lady here, Dolly Parton. And I want to rant against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, disclaimer, if you are the kind of person that do not like rants, and specifically do not like to hear Soul Train Bro go off and rant, this is absolutely not the video that you should be viewing. I would respectfully ask you to take your leave right now. I'm even going to give you a couple of seconds. Okay, for those of you still here, this is a toast to Dolly Parton. And Dolly is a lady that I've always liked. She is a great artist, wonderful, wonderful, soulful voice, and a sweet soul, right? Now, her respectability meter for me has just jumped up 100-fold. Why? I have a couple of things to read to you. And recently, now what this is all about is Dolly was recently named as someone who was nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she gracefully, respectfully declined. And this is a nutshell here, but I'm going to read what she said in her own words. And she feels that she is not 100% deserving of it because it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she is a country artist, and she didn't want to split votes or, mislead anyone in a certain direction. So good on her. I haven't, maybe there's others existing who has done the same, but I don't know of them off the top of my head. So in keeping with my channel, and in the last 3 years of doing this focus on classic rock, it's a big one here, and so I respect her a hell of a lot for that. So just a quick note about that. I've been doing this reaction thing for 3.5 years now, and the two things that just burns my ass are the selecting process for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and how classic rock radio is not the same today. How they've sold out, they've sold their souls, and you're not hearing just classic rock, you're hearing a mix of all kinds of different stuff, right? So those are the two big things that burns me ever since I've been doing my reaction thing and taking a walk into the classic rock genre. So with that said, man, let me kind of lay the foundation of my rant here, okay? Of my toast and my rant. I know there's just two things that shouldn't go together, but I'm putting them together because it's the platform for it. So Dolly Parton, thanks but no thanks. Parton says the nomination inspired her to put out a rock and roll album at some point in the future. Dolly Parton has announced she is pulling out of this year's nominations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, saying she hasn't earned that right. The music icon, who's been elected into the Country Music Hall of Fame, explained her decision in a statement posted on her official social media pages Monday, noting she did not want to take votes away from the remaining nominees. Quote, even though I'm extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I've earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out, she wrote. Other artists who have made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Country Hall of Fame includes Brenda Lee, Johnny Cash, Elvis, Chet Atkins, Hank Williams, and the Everly Brothers. Parton was named on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shortlist last month, alongside fellow first-time nominees, listen closely, Eminem, Lionel Richie, Duran Duran, and A Tribe Called Quest. What do these artists have in common? They're all great. They're all deserving of induction into a Hall of Fame. In my opinion, not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that is what this rant is the basis for. More about that later. The Cleveland-based institution had announced 17 artists and groups being considered for induction, also including Rage Against the Machine, Pat Benatar, Dionne Warwick, Carly Simon, Judas Priest, and Beck. The other nominees are Kate Bush, Devo, Eurythmics, Fela Kuti, MC5, and the New York Dolls. And Dolly says, quote, "I do hope that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider me again if I'm ever worthy," Parton's statement concludes. This has, however, inspired me to put out a hopefully great rock and roll album at some point in the future, which I have always wanted to do. My husband is a total rock and roll freak and has always encouraged me to do one. I wish all of the nominees good luck and thank you again for the compliment, Parton concludes. Rock on. Let's take a moment and show respect and appreciation for a great lady and somebody who is propelled by her convictions, and she's being true to herself, and she's being true to the ideal of truth. She's not greedy, right? She's not motivated by her greed, and that greed will also fuel your desire to always want to steal spotlights wherever you can steal it, to have your 15 minutes of fame extended and burn as bright as possible. She's not motivated by any of that, you can tell. So hats off to you, Dolly Parton. You're a great lady. All right, so I'm not done. Now, I also want to read two follow-up but shorter pieces here. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame won't pull Dolly Parton from the ballot. We are in awe of Dolly, they say. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has declined Dolly's request to pull her nomination. The country legend wrote Monday on social media that although she was flattered and grateful, she was concerned her presence on the ballot would split votes. "I don't feel that I've earned that right," she says. But after a few days of radio silence on the matter, the organization confirmed on Thursday that she'll remain on the ballot in part because voting is already well underway. Voting is already well underway. Put a pin in that. Dolly's nomination, along with the other 16 artists for the class of 2022, was sent out earlier this month to her 1,200 general ballot voters, the majority of whom are artists themselves, for consideration for induction at our ceremony, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation said in a statement provided to USA Today, quote, "We are in awe of Dolly's brilliant talent and pioneering spirit and are proud to have nominated her for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame," unquote. I immediately thought to myself, well, geez, she should have been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a long time ago if you're so in awe of her, right? So why now, 2022? It should have been 2002, right? Anyway, hey, it's neither here or there, right? There's a lot of great artists, but here's the thing. She is a country music icon, not a rock and roll icon, right? So she's already, I believe, in the Country Music Hall of Fame, and that's where she belongs, right? This is my overall big point. And of course, I'm going to be harping and singing the same song a couple of times during this review, during this rant. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I believe that it is hallowed ground for rock and roll artists. The Country Music Hall of Fame is the Country Music Hall of Fame, reserved for hallowed artists just like Dolly Parton. You know, all of this overlapping and all of that sort of thing, I don't know whose brilliant idea that was, what the motivation for that was. Obviously, it was motivated by some sort of gain of some sort. But what it's done, it has totally taken away the respectability of the organization by fans like me. We don't have faith in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of reasons like this, right? So let me read one more article. You can tell I'm fired up about this shit. Plus, I've been drinking a lot of sugarcane rum, and when I drink sugarcane rum, I go beyond liquid courage. I just don't give a damn. So, Newsy says, after Parton tried to bow out, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation said that, in effect, it is up to the voters to decide if Parton is elected. Remember that. Parton is still on the list of this year's nominations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, despite the country icon asking to be removed because she hasn't earned that right. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation said in a statement Thursday that, in effect, it is up to the voters to decide if Parton is elected. Dolly's recommendation, along with the other 16 nominees for the class of 2022, was sent out earlier this month to our 1,200 general ballot voters, the majority of whom are artists themselves, for consideration. The previous article said the same thing. On Monday, Parton went on to social media to respectfully bow out. I'll skip over that paragraph because it's quoting the same thing. Parton was named on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shortlist. Okay. And it's listing all of her fellow inductees and nominees as well. Parton is most associated with country music and is in the Country Hall of Fame, but she has performed songs with a rock feel. Come on. Michael Jackson has performed songs with a rock feel, right? Dirty Diana has a rock feel. Does that mean that, okay. Artists who have made the Rock and Roll and Country Hall of Fame. Okay, yeah, so it's pretty much the same verses, but just different articles. The foundation on Thursday said there was plenty of room in the hall for artists who aren't pure rockers. From its inception, rock and roll has had deep roots in rhythm and blues and country music. It is not defined by any one genre, rather a sound that moves youth culture, the statement reads. A sound that moves youth culture. Reggae is a sound that moves youth culture. R&B is a sound that moves youth culture. Jazz is a sound that moves youth culture. All of these different genres, they are specific sounds that can move youth culture. What the hell are you talking about? So what that means is their slippery, slick way of talking here means that they are open and free to induct whoever the hell they feel that they want to induct. Why would they do that? Because there is some sort of gain there. That's why. There is some sort of political stance. There is some sort of social ascension there. Something benefits them. That's why they're doing it, right? Man. All right. So let's go to Black Sabbath for a second. Ozzy said, I don't give a damn about your selection process, and I could care less about you inducting Black Sabbath into the Hall of Fame after Black Sabbath had been nominated multiple times and passed over multiple times. It's only when he said that, that's when they started to kind of scurry around and get them nominated. Rush. Look at how long it took the fans, literally banging on the doors of the foundation, to get Rush inducted. That's wrong, man. These guys are more classic rock than anybody here mentioned in this 2022 list, you know? Speaking of a list, let me go back a little bit. Let me go back a couple of weeks, right? Because it's still fresh in my mind, and with Dolly's article coming out, let me go to the root of my my rant here and the boiling rant that I've got coming out. This is the root of it. I did an artist spotlight on Judas Priest a couple of weeks ago. Don D sent me a quad, right? And in that particular quad reaction, there was a bit of a rant. I didn't intend for it to be a rant because it started off as just a question, but it turned into a rant. Who am I kidding? And let me give you a little bit of that right now. Why in the hell is Judas Priest not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I'm not going to rant, but I'm going to ask a question. And let's do a comparison breakdown, because this is fresh on the heels of Guns N' Roses. Their reaction that I did just a short while ago on the Beyond platform. So let's look at Guns N' Roses for a minute. They haven't been around as long as Judas Priest. And when you're comparing the apples to the oranges on the weight scale, you know, Priest has accomplished everything that Guns N' Roses has. And on top of that, they came through and went through that glam rock era, that hair band era, and all of that sort of thing. I don't consider Guns N' Roses a hair band. They've got more endearing qualities than that. I don't consider Judas Priest a hair band. They've got more endearing qualities than that. You know, they are a cornerstone, pillar, sound influence of heavy metal and rock and roll. So why in the holy hell is Judas Priest not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Guns N' Roses is? I love Guns N' Roses, they're great, but Judas Priest should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before them, before, I'm not going to name drop, before rappers, before all of these other R&B, hip-hop artists. We're talking the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What the hell is going on, right? Jethro Tull is still not inducted. It's only recently that the Doobie Brothers got inducted. What the hell are you people doing, right? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you are the most twisted, slanted, tilted, corrupted body of politicians I have ever seen, where it comes to music and where it comes to doing the right thing. You do some soul checking. What the hell is wrong with you? Anyway, done. Judas Priest should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is no argument. There is, okay, done. That shit is bugging me, man. Musical style. Judas Priest have influenced a great deal of metal music since the late 70s. They were ranked by MTV as the second greatest metal band of all time after Black Sabbath, and VH1 named them the 78th greatest artist of all time in 2010. They were nominated for, here we go again. I feel that bubbling rage coming up again. They were nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018, but were passed over despite placing among the top 5 fan-voted nominees. Corrupt. The band has sold over 50 million records so far, having 11 top 30 albums in the UK. You know answers to my questions? Send those my way. Anybody can, but yeah, you know, usually the host is a fan and they know things. So that's why I'm focused on Dawn. But anyone can send me information about Priest, man. And what the hell is the problem? Sorry, I'm going back to the Hall of Fame. Why? They were nominated 3 times, being considered 3 times, and they're still not in it. There's got to be something. Now, I know that I've heard this anyway, that for example with Judas or with Jethro Tull, that Ian Anderson is considered to be a dick sometimes, and that might be why they have not made it into the Hall of Fame yet. You know, but I haven't heard any such stories about Judas Priest. Is there some sort of a political thing keeping them out of the Hall of Fame? I mean, look how long it took Rush to get inducted, and the fans had to be really, really aggressive in order to actually get them considered. You know what I mean? So what the hell is going on? Things that's a no-brainer, you know, like Priest going into the Hall of Fame, it shouldn't take this long. You know, and Ozzy said, you know, I don't give a shit about your damn Hall of Fame. You know, I don't care about nominations or anything. And it's only when he did that they were finally considered. So what the hell is wrong with the Hall of Fame? I just don't get it. And you know, I was raised in R&B, I was raised on hip hop, rap, all of that sort of thing. But no, not when you've got a band like Priest that's been around since 1969 and they're not inducted into the Hall of Fame. But yeah, you can put all of these rappers and people of that sort in before them. blood is boiling like a mother right now. So wrong on so many levels. But answer that question for me. Why is Judas Priest not in the Hall of Fame? They should have been in the Hall of Fame 20 years ago. Why are they not in the Hall of Fame? I need to know. All right. Okay. As you can tell, I was fired up. So this is what Don D says after it was posted. He says, as to the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame, we seem to go around and around with disgust. I've completely given up on them. We should remember that the main guy there is Jan Wenner, who runs Rolling Stone, along with a bunch of other elitist establishment pricks who have always held a sneering disdain for hard rock, heavy metal, and progressive rock, and their largely white working class fans. Look at this list from last year. It says it all. Off the top of my head, I'd add also Iron Maiden and Triumph to this list. So then he says that this is a look at who is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the list was populated by Chad Tyson. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced the nominees for the class of 2021 this week, and with that announcement, each year comes a debate by fans over artists and bands that were overlooked or snubbed. Absolutely. Here's a rundown of some of the names that have come up this year. Who on this list do you think should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And without doubt, I'm saying immediately everybody. So here's the list. Bad Company, Free, Badfinger, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Blue Oyster Cult, Boston, Bryan Adams, BTO, The Guess Who, Dave Matthews Band, Eddie Money, ELP, Foreigner, Grand Funk Railroad, Ian Hunter, Mott the Hoople, Jethro Tull, Jimmy Buffett, Joe Cocker, Joe Walsh as a solo artist, John Mayall, Judas Priest, Kansas, Little Feat, Meatloaf, Pat Benatar, Peter Frampton, Humble Pie, Phil Collins as a solo artist, Procol Harum, REO Speedwagon, Scorpions, The Smiths, Soundgarden, Sting, Styx, Thin Lizzy. Now, to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and to anybody else who even thinks that they're gonna get into my face and try and show me something different. This is what I have to say to you. It doesn't matter what the selection process is. It doesn't matter what the social political agenda is. It doesn't matter at all. You can't say shit to me that will make me change my mind and my conviction that every single one of these artists listed here deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before all of those artists listed in the 2022 ticket. Did you hear what I said? I'm going to say it again. Every single artist on this list is more deserving of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction before the 2022 ticket of inductees are considered, right? That's part one. Part two is, I don't believe at all that we should have other artists entered into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame aside from classic rock artists. All right, maybe not even classic rock artists. So rock and roll as a specific genre. If you have an intelligent brain in your damn head, you know what I mean by rock and roll, right? You can simply listen to something and say, yeah, all right, this is usually a soul artist, but he's creating a classic rock sound. All right, let's take that particular classic rock sound that he's created in the form of a song or a rock album and give it a highlight. Maybe it was just such an influential and inspirational album, it's got a mark in history. Yes, that artist in that case does deserve induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We can probably think of a couple of artists like that, right? There are some exceptions to the rule. Here's a couple I can think of off the top of my head. Jimi Hendrix has only been around for 4 years, but his influence has been so inspirational and inspiring that it's really rippled throughout the course of history, and it will forever be with us throughout the course of time, right? He has been a big influence. He deserves induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you can say, yes, he's dipped his feet in rock and roll and the blues as well, right? So that is an exception. Janis Joplin, I believe she only gave us 2 albums. And she's got a very bluesy foundation. Yes, it's true. But this lady has been such a big, powerful influence, and she's inspired so many to become singers and all of these different things. And again, she will forever be heralded and remembered throughout the course of history. She definitely is deserving of the rock and roll induction prestige. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a good discerning mind, and you're not politically driven, you're not driven by greed or anything else, then you know what? I believe that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be hallowed ground for those who produce rock and roll content. That's what I feel. The Country Music Hall of Fame, the same. The R&B Hall of Fame, the same. Why are we even going to create genres if we are not going to stick to the damn genre specific? You know what I'm saying? It's like my channel. A lot of people get pissed off at me. No, I'm sorry. I do not consider this to be classic rock. Now you have a platform where you can go and you can submit that recommendation on the Beyond Classic Rock platform, right? And so people who used to really get mad at me, now it's not as bad because now they've got another option. Sometimes people will argue with me. No, I believe this is classic rock. Well, I'm the gatekeeper, and I believe that it isn't, so it belongs on the Beyond Classic platform. And well, how do you define classic rock, Wayne? Well, I define classic rock as, let's just say, starting from the 60s, going into the 80s. There's a little bit of overlap and play because you've also got to consider the actual sound of classic rock. But when you're talking about a time period, that's how I see it. When you're talking about a sound, that's how I see it, right? And you can say, like, let's say Eric Clapton, if he was to create an album today, it more than likely would probably be something that I would put on my classic rock platform. Why? Because more than anything, he's a classic rock artist. Now, if he creates a completely different album, an R&B hip hop rap album, then no, I would not be putting it on my classic rock platform. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to have a discerning mind, and there's a little bit of room for debate, but just a little bit. Unless you're being irrationally ignorant, people understand what the parameters of classic rock and roll is. Done. Now, I am going to piss off a lot of people because my rant from Judas Priest, I wish that I could say that all of the comments and all of the messages that I got were all great about, hey, great reaction, love your process and all of that, but a lot of the times they were really shooting it in my face. Man, you need to shut your damn mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. How dare you, this and this and this, who the hell are you anyway? I get a lot of that too. So I know already I'm going to piss off a lot of people, but that's okay. I don't care. This is my channel. You're here for a reason. If you don't like it, you can hit the bricks. But those same people keep coming back. Why? Why do you keep coming back, right? There's got to be something wrong with you. So that, y'all, in a nutshell, is my toast and appreciation for Dolly Parton. And also my rant against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All of those great artists that I've listed should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before all of those artists on that entire 2022 ticket, for the reasons that I've already shared with you, right? And I believe that rock and roll is hallowed ground. And going back to Dolly again, she is going to do right by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's going to do right by us, the fans of rock and roll. You can't, this is the thing. This is ultimately what burns me. You cannot forget about the fans. The fans are the sole foundation of everything, right? You are where you are. You have what you've got because of you and me, the fans, right? When you get to a level where you're disregarding what the fans feel, what they want, then you have become corrupt. You have. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they have been denying the fans Black Sabbath induction. They have been denying the fans Rush induction. For whatever their reasons are, and I don't care what they are, I'm telling you, whatever those reasons are, their stupid selection process, all of that bullshit, it's bullshit, and it's only self-serving to them. It's wrong, right? Let me go off on a totally different random tangent here. Game of Thrones. Man. When you are a showrunner, right, and you are inviting the fans in, you're creating this world, and you are wooing the fan base. Now the fans love you. Now the fans trust you. Now the fans are on board with what you're doing, and they can't wait to see what you've created and what you have in store for them. And then you shit the bed and you give them season 8 and you allow that shit to go out. What it is, it's a slap in the face, and you're spitting in the face of your fan base. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? We have come to the end of our creative line, and we would like to gracefully pass it over to other people who have just as much creative input and talent as we do. And so this is the best that we can do for you. We're at the end of our chain, let's say in season 6, and now we're going to pass over the last couple of seasons to a team of other very, very notable writers, creators, whatever the case is. But you didn't do that because you were selfish, and it was motivated by self-centeredness and greed. And you have completely let the entire fan base down. You've completely let George R.R. Martin down, the creator. The guy is still alive to see the fallout of his great creation, because you, selfish son of a bitches, you did not gracefully pass it along. You were hanging on to greed, and you were hanging on to self-centeredness and control. Back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Same thing, right? Corruption on every single level, and that is why I do not respect you. That is why I have no faith in your selection process. I think it's bullshit. All of that stuff that you're saying about the fans and the artists, only 1,200? Give me a damn break, man. I believe that it's a hierarchy of people who have some sort of investment gain, and that's it, right? It's charged like that. But Dolly, she is standing aside, and she's not counting herself a part of it. She's going to continue to soar like the eagle that she is. She's not going to cluck with the hens. That's what she's really saying in a really, really great way, that she knows that you guys are corrupt, and she doesn't want a part of it. If she's going to be involved at all, it's because she's going to earn it, and she's going to create a rock and roll album, and she says that she's going to be worthy of that honor. Good on you, Dolly. I'm telling you, man, her respectability has shot up so high. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to apologize. Even though I'm drunk in sugarcane rum, this is my rant. It's exactly how I feel. It's coming across very raw, in your face, and gritty, but that is exactly what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame deserves, right? And after all of these years, there's nothing that you can say to justify not having these great artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nothing at all, right? And if they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you're doing it wrong. You're doing your job wrong. That's my point. Anyway, guys, that's my rant and my toast. And I hope some of you see my point of view. Even if you do not see my point of view and you don't agree with me, or I might have missed something, let me know. But let me know in a nice, respectable way. If you're not going to be respectable, you know the process. Don't say anything at all. If you still feel that you're that important that you still want to say some shit, you know what's going to happen after that. I'm going to block your ass. That's exactly how it works on my channel. So, let me know what you think about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, how they can improve things, what they need to do in the form of structural change, because come on, they have to go through a structural change where it comes to their selection process. No cap, right? And all of these great artists right now that I've listed, they should be inducted immediately. You should take your 2022 ticket, set that off in the distance. In fact, change the whole genre specific. Eminem, what the hell? As great as Eminem is, he should not even step foot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He should not even be considered. I'm sorry. I don't like to name drop, but I wasn't the one who did the name dropping. Look at the entire list of the 2022 ticket and look at that list that I just gave you guys of those artists. All of those artists right now should be being inducted in the class of 2022, right? Not the class that we're actually looking at. That's my rant. Anyway, I'm out of here and I'm going to bounce before I get on it again. So have a good one. Take care. I've got some Led Zeppelin coming up. I'll see you later. Peace.